Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On the Curbs IndyCar. I'm your host, Nate Woods, and I'm joined once again with my co-host, Thiemo Albers-Daly. Thiemo, how we doing?
Very good, thank you, Mr. Woods. We were treated to a lovely race north of the border in Toronto, and it did not disappoint, for me at least. How are you?
I'm doing great. We finally got a race that I think we'd kind of been hoping for all season.
Yeah, it felt classically IndyCar in a plethora of ways, and we said at the end of last week we don't want necessarily the same thing to happen this year as did last year at the start, and mostly we got through the start, and I thought, you know what, even if something happens now, turn three, turn four, we've already made it further than we did last year.
That's
And
right.
then, as is often the case in motorsport, when there is a dramatic sample, there is often a cheap imitation. And we did get that later on in the race, but we'll get there as we go on. But I like that we had a bit of everything.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, to kind of begin race day, unfortunately, Santino Ferrugi had an accident in morning warm-up that the team just wasn't able to get that car repaired and get a backup car ready. And it looked like maybe Santino was nursing a sore hand in interviews before the race, so he may
Yeah, it
not have
looked
been
like he'd
available.
been bar fighting a little bit there
Yeah,
with how red the knuckles were. I don't know
yeah,
if you saw the camera angle from, because obviously it happened down the back straight. But then, obviously, as you come around the corner to go on to the next bit of the track, there was a camera there, and I don't know if you saw that particular angle, but it's just nothing there at all, and then just vroom.
oh yes,
I was
yeah,
going absolutely,
yep,
geez,
yeah.
what? And obviously, if you haven't seen anything else from this massive crash that's taking ages to happen, you're going, what on earth? Did I blink? Did I imagine that? What was that? I was like, no, no, that happened.
But yeah, unfortunately, he was awarded last place as it did not start. It's unfortunate for the A.J Foyt team. They had a good amount of momentum going, but when we
He was
did
having
get
a
to this,
tricky weekend up to that point anyway. I don't know how much of practice and qualifying you saw, particularly the I think penultimate corner. That car's going off into the runoff area. At times it was quite amusing. There was like three or four at the same time, and Scott McLaughlin had to do a quick shimmy to get out of the way of Pato, who was coming in, who would have collected him up entirely, and Ferrucci's turning around to the background, and you're just going, why is everyone losing it so badly at this corner? I mean, I know it's a bumpy, uneven track at the best of times, but this seems a little ridiculous.
yeah, all that rubber that we laid down in practice got washed away as well. So
Hmm.
uh, I don't know if that had anything to do with the Ferrucci incident, but from my understanding, that was a pretty green track. And
Yeah,
morning warm-ups are not
definitely
meant
caught him
for,
out.
yeah, morning warm-ups are not meant for laying rubber down. That's strictly for just getting the cars shook down from the day before, and unfortunate
I
for
mean,
him,
it was
but
shaken.
we definitely shook some, yeah. But when we got to the race, I had a really, I thought, an amazing start, and you kind of when you're watching those starts like that, where you're on a street course or even a road course where you're going down a big straightaway and then there's a right-hand turn at the end of it. And you're like, oh, 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 here it
Oh,
comes.
there was several moments throughout the race where you're going, ooh, you're
Yeah,
stepping back, and again the commentators in unison with the oh, and
yeah,
nothing's actually happened just yet. It's just everyone anticipating that there is going to be
yep.
something. And yeah, surprisingly clean start, but I was wary of it after last year and how quickly that could go sideways. But mercifully, we made it through the first two corners.
Yeah, and everybody made it through first lap. And tire strategy early played a role in the early moments of this race. A lot of these drivers that had started on the soft compound or the alternate compound uh, dove into pit road after just a couple laps to get off of them.
Mm.
And
It reminded me very much of Road America in terms of how much tire strategy came into things.
yes, yeah. And uh, unfortunately, we didn't have to. We did make it through lap one without a caution, but we only managed to make it to lap four before we had Scott McLaughlin uh, having an incident.
But the best bit of that for me, because we've got to look for the silver linings for him, because geez, what a season he's having in terms of the amount of curses and bad luck he's got placed upon
Yeah.
him, never mind the rest of the team as a whole. But did you see the interview with him that they did straight away afterwards?
Yeah, he didn't want to throw his team under the bus because I don't think he had seen the replay yet.
And then they showed him the
And then
replay,
they
and
showed him
you
the
could see
replay. He's
his
like,
brain whirring, going, "Ah, we might have to blame the team
yeah,
for that one."
yeah, yeah. So left front tire. He was one of the team. He was one of the drivers that dove in early to get off that soft compound, and they just didn't get that left rear on all the way. And it took what about 7 turns for that thing to finally work itself loose. And
It was
uh,
interesting. There was the NASCAR race, one of them in Sonoma weekend before last, I think.
mhm.
Um, the tire nut came off there, and the tire came off for one of the cars, and very neat and great camera angle to show the moment it did spring off. And this one seemed even neater because you saw a second component come off at the same time, and
Yes.
then the tire like they. I don't know how they managed to mess it up, but they messed it up 100% perfectly because it's literally everything that could be coming off is coming off here
Yes.
at the worst
Yeah.
possible time.
Well, they were showing the tire changer sitting on the wall after the incident, and he was just kind of sitting there with this look on his face like, I might not have a job when I return to Indianapolis.
Yeah, so I'll get my P45 and I'll be on my way.
Yeah, yeah. Get that pink slip. So, um, I think during that caution, pretty much everybody that was still on the soft compound came in to get off of that compound. We had some interesting names in the top five that we don't normally see in top five, but
No, very
and
much
several
so.
several of these names were ones that ended in the top five as well. So
Yeah, they made it all the way to the end, and I think that summarised the race really neatly there. It was Pillow very much was trying to capitalize on the chaos and
mm,
didn't quite make it work. I mean, all things considered, yes, okay, one of his worst results of the season, but when you look at the positioning, it's not the worst result it could have been. He was still firmly inside the top 20, just knocking on the door of the top 10 sort of thing. But all these other drivers, it is that kind of we've got nothing to lose situation.
mm,
We're going to roll the dice and see what happens because what's the worst that can happen? We're going to end up where we normally would be anyway. So why not chance it? And
yeah,
like I say, even if it was, I mean, a couple of these drivers that you're referring to, Simpson and Lucas were in the top 5 at that point. Ultimately, didn't work out for them in the grand scheme of things. But I liked that they came into play and they
yeah,
went, why not? Let's see what we can do.
yeah. And actually, it was VK and VK and Simpson had actually stayed out on their soft tires, and
Hmm.
at that point in the race, that seemed like a horrible call. And we're like, it didn't take long after the green flag came back out that these guys were just falling back through the pack. I mean, they restarted second and fourth, and we restarted the race in lap 8, and by what lap 5 laps later,
13. Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
outside of the top 10, and
Yeah, the amount of times you've had three cars wide and pitch the track where you're like, that's not physically possible. How are you doing and getting away
right,
with it as everyone's trying to scramble past these drivers that have,
yeah,
at that point in time, absolutely balled the strategy in the worst possible way?
yeah,
And you're going, oh, that's such a shame. Little
yeah.
do we know what's coming later.
Yeah, yeah, it's not often that you see moving chicanes end up having career best finishes, but uh, um, Rasmussen had an incident where he got loose and brushed the wall and brought out our second caution of the day. Um, finally
Kept
got
going though, importantly, even though it didn't quite work out for him in the end, he was able to keep going with it
yeah,
once he got it repaired. Obviously
yeah,
not, he didn't quite carry on the rest of the race like that. That would have been too silly, but
yeah. But that did give VK and Simpson an opportunity to come in and get off those alternate tires and continue on with their strategy. It was a clean restart and had Alex Palou out front, and he just started pulling away from the pack. It felt like we
yeah,
were going to have
we
another Palou day at that point.
very much, and we've seen it so many times this year that it's not that we were just kind of resigned to it, but it was just we're used to it.
we're
And so we
used
had no
to.
reason to think that he couldn't make it work. He's made it work
Right.
damn near every time that he's tried it, and even when it's not resulted in him winning the race, he's still been in second. So
Yeah.
we thought he's somehow done that again. And well, it's great to have these other interesting names in the top 10. It's frustrating because we need that one name to not be there for
Yeah.
this to get more interesting, and he was still there the whole time. But then you had Pato on the alternative strategy rather, and kind of slowly but surely making some neat progress through the field there. And if it wasn't for the next caution, again, so many cautions in this race that just completely flipped the narrative time and time again, you do wonder what would have happened instead. But I think considering the final end result, Pato won't mind too much that his run got interrupted on this occasion, and it seemed to flip so much with Palou with well, this caution will benefit me. The next one won't. The next one
Mhm.
might though. But the one after that, I'm not sure. And you're going, I don't know. We're not really sure what to do here, and that's why I think it was so good that you've had all the midfield teams, let's say, taking bigger risks with it because, again, as I said, they've got less to lose and everything to gain by it. And you go, well, okay, we've managed to take this chance with this caution. It hasn't worked out for us. Okay, what did we learn? Quickly, quickly, quickly. Flip it for the next one. Let's go, let's
Yeah.
go, let's go. And try and keep doing
Yeah.
it, keep doing it. And it was just, as we'll get to it, the team by team analysis, really brilliant to see which ones made it work and which ones really didn't.
Yeah. By this point in the race, I mean, we had several, at least three different strategies going on. I feel
Hmm.
like,
Which is at least one more than normal.
correct. Yeah. There's usually the Pato Award strategy or the Alex Palou strategy, and then there's the strategy that everybody else is on.
Hmm.
So, we had a weird incident on lap 30. Caution flag came back out for Alexander Rossi accident. Hit the concrete barrier. It was just a brush, what should have been something that, almost every driver experiences in that race.
I
But
think
he
Jack
caught,
Harvey said 99 times out of 100, that's fine. You just happen to
yeah.
get the 100th time.
Well, we got 26 cars on track and then we're turning 90 laps. So it was a lot of chances that something could happen. But it was just, they were showing the replay and almost like that concrete barrier had moved or had been uh, damaged in some way before Rossi came through there. But when Rossi came in, that corner, what should have just been a regular brush of the wall ended up being, uh, I mean, it tore the whole side of the car off.
I mean, we saw in practice, and I think a little in qualifying, people essentially doing what he did, rushing
Mhm.
it and getting away with
Yeah,
it. But I wouldn't have thought that any of those incidents would have caused significant damage to the wall itself to make
right.
it suddenly. That seems to be a different kind of concrete.
Yeah,
It's hard, but it's nowhere. It's both harder and not as hard as it should be to create this kind of damage to the car, and chaos ensued.
yeah. And the field bunched up, and we knew that there were going to be cars that came into pit. Um, and pretty much everybody did, except for Alex Palou and Scott Dixon.
Yeah, they it was an interesting strategy, wasn't it? Because again, even
Yeah,
at this point, as you're saying, you normally have the strategy of Alex Palou and then what everyone else does. This time, Alex Palou kind of threw his own strategy out the window. It
yeah,
felt like he even talked about that briefly after the race and went, "Well, um, I think he was told that oh, you didn't do anything wrong today." And I went, "Well, I called the strategy wrong." So I'm pretty sure I did, and yeah, a very rare chink in the armor that we've seen a bit more of recently, but not when it comes to overall strategy in the race. So that was quite interesting for me. Deciding to leave it a bit longer than the others because obviously they did then come in, but at that point the damage was already done. I think it was. If we can stay out a bit longer, wait for it to get racing again, maybe we can take advantage of this. But then maybe I'm not quite sure why they didn't try and wait because I think there are only another couple of laps until um, the next caution, which then was a lengthy one, and you could have tried to take advantage a little bit then maybe, or just come in that quick gap of like, we don't know how long the green's going to go on for, quickly pit then, and then in theory they could have come out before that next caution flag. But again,
yeah.
how much do you know ahead of time? But it was sort of whatever they did, it felt at that point because they didn't come in when everyone else did. They were more or less screwed regardless.
Yeah, and they finally came in on the next caution right when we went back to green, and uh, immediately caution came back out again. Jacob Abel, which wasn't, he just kind of misjudged turn one,
I wasted
and
no time in making the comment of you can't park there.
well, it felt like a replay of that first lap incident in St.
Hmm.
Pete. I'm like, wait a
Oh,
minute.
okay. I was thinking of Toronto last year, just on a lesser scale.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, there's five cars that piled into turn one, and one car sitting on top of another one. It's like, oh,
It was
we've
such
seen this before.
a neat way of achieving that balancing act because I think the commentators were saying, "Oh, new guys was wrong place, wrong time," but he did sort of he didn't not cause it because Jacob he was already having a bit of
Yeah.
a moment, but then Newgarden it had enough space. It felt like to maybe take it a little tighter around that corner and avoid it. Instead, obviously nudged him, and then the nudging caused everything else to happen.
Yeah. Mayhem
Um,
ensued behind. Yeah.
So, and I think that the briefness of Newgarden's immediate interview afterwards said everything that it needed to do. Saying kind
Yeah.
of wrong place, wrong time. But there is an element of that, but also you may have had a little bit to do with it as well.
Yeah. You might have had a hand in what happened there. On the green flag that ensued after that caution, Pato Award was on a tear. And I think that was kind of, we got the first glimpse of, all right, I think we may have the person that's going to dethrone Alex Palou in this race. Because up to this point, I mean,
Yeah,
Alex Palou has led, what, 30 laps, 30,
yeah.
35
Again,
laps.
he'd
And
managed to completely dominate the start. He kind of did what he normally does. Of like, I don't need to take it straight away. I'll just be patient. I'll take advantage of the opportunities, and he did. And then he just started disappearing off the road. And it was only because of the cautions that he wasn't able to keep it. Because obviously, every time it happened, the gap would be reset. And it was only then that, like, right, one of these cautions is going to statistically, if nothing else, at some point, give you some bad luck. And luckily, Pato and Claren were able to take full advantage of it. And I think, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but they're in that interesting middle ground, I feel like, where they are a top team, but they're not performing consistently like a top team. So they're potentially thinking a bit more like a midfield team in terms of the strategy course that they're making to take
yeah,
advantage of these situations. Because, again, you look at the gap between Palou and the standings and Award and everyone else coming into this weekend. What is to stop you from just taking the risk? Because you're already going against the odds anyway. Let's
right.
face it. So it doesn't matter too much at the end of the year whether you lost by 1 point or you lost by 100 because you'll have still lost. But at
Yeah.
least if you only lose by a point, you can say, well, we gave it a damn good go, a much better go of things than we did in the first half of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, we got to lap 54 and we started seeing drivers dive in for what would be their last stop of the race. And, uh, that 35 lap mark was about what they felt, the teams felt comfortable with in making it to the end. So we saw big groups of leaders start popping in. Um, and by the time it cycled out, we had pretty much I think the top five. We still had a few drivers that still needed a pit that were on that kind of weird third strategy. But
Yeah,
uh,
Malukas and Rob principally among
Lucas
that
and
because you
Rob,
saw
yeah,
them in the top five and you're
yeah,
thinking, oh, and then you realize and you go, oh, not again.
yeah, not
Especially
again.
from Lucas because was it well, only last weekend that he had this exact same sort of issue of
Yep,
I'm running in the top. Oh no, I
yeah,
have to pit again.
yeah,
Why?
yeah. He made it to 15 laps from the end and ended up having to pit. He had an
Not
issue
as
on pit
painful as
road.
Scott Dixon,
Yeah,
at least in what was it, Road America, where he got within what 3 laps towards the end, and then had to come in for
had to
fuel. And you
pit.
go, you
Yep.
should have just made it a little bit longer.
It's like you're supposed to be the fuel guy, man. Um, But yeah, Lucas had an issue on pit road that could have been very costly, but
Hmm.
like Scott McLaughlin, costly. Um, they had trouble getting the right rear on the car. Luckily, they stopped and were able to get that tire tightened. He came back out in 15th, which probably cost him what probably at least 4 or 5 positions on track, I'm guessing. Um,
But at the same time, you think you'd rather take the extra couple of seconds in the pit lane, make sure that's on,
yeah,
and at least have the chance to work your way back up through the field, unlike Scott McLaughlin, who they decided, it's fine, slap
yeah,
it, go, make it
yeah,
go on its way, and then, boing.
yeah. Oops. So we made it almost to the end, and actually, I mean, we had 10 laps left, and we had some of the best racing that we've seen all season. I mean, it was
It
happening so
was,
fast
yeah,
that the cameras and the commentators couldn't keep up with it. You're kind of doing, one of these things, head on a swivel
it,
type.
I do
Uh,
think it's one of my favourite street circuits in motorsport generally, never mind just IndyCar, because it's less than 2 miles, but you've got everything in it. You've got per perfect kind of overtaking opportunities. You've got a nice back straight. You've got a front straight where you can make some really neat dives into the first
mhm.
turn. Will Power did a bit of that, and
Yep.
it reminds me a little bit of Baku in some respects because you've got that long straight, like I say, for the
Yeah.
overtaking and the close racing. But then immediately after that reminds me of the castle section in Baku where you're going. It's maybe doable to get
Yeah.
2 cars side by side, but we don't recommend it very often.
Yeah.
And if you get
Baku
it wrong,
is
it will go bad.
Baku is one of my favorite F1 circuits. I know a lot of people gripe about being too narrow in places when they're heading through the castles, but yeah, I personally enjoy that track, and I think you're right with Toronto. It's probably one of my favorite street races. Certainly with IndyCar, it's a lot of fun to watch. And
Especially it rewards the bravery when you get it right as well. I mean, it
correct,
will punish you when you get it wrong, and as we'll definitely get to when we do too
yeah,
much analysis. But you're looking at Herta getting closer to Simpson, and you're going, it's nip and tuck. It's very doable there. And as soon as that caution came out at the end, you're going, Simpson might just buy Rosenquist and Siegel a nice drink later. Go, thank you,
yeah,
because I probably could have made it, but I'm glad I didn't
yeah,
have to find out.
yeah. We made it just a couple laps from the end, and Rosenquist, who had been fighting that broken wing pretty much for 3/4 of the race, I feel like. Uh, Finally lost it there in the S's along the pit road, and unfortunately collected Nolan Siegel. He was an unfortunate bystander.
That was a case of being in the wrong case at the wrong time. That wasn't a Joseph Newgarden one place wrong
Yeah,
time.
yeah, and so race finished under caution. I think that's be the first one this year, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and so Pato Award was our winner. Wins over the podium was kind of a surprise, I think. The surprising names on the podium. I think we'd seen these guys up towards the front most of the race.
Yeah, they
Renus
earned it.
VK, yeah, Renus VK in second, and Kiffin Simpson coming home in third.
We've been talking so much about Kevin Simpson all year and Renus VK, even
Yeah,
as early as last week, saying I want them to sort of stay where they are because you can see the progress that they're
yeah,
making. I wasn't expecting it to materialize quite so
yeah,
soon.
right.
Um, but I think the, the interesting thing there is that, as we'll talk about a little bit later on, Andretti have one of their strongest weekends and arguably their strongest weekend this year. And yet, you've got these two drivers that have, if we're going to be a little harsh, but absolutely no right being there ahead of this top team in theory.
Right.
And like I say, even without the quarter at the end, I still think Simpson would have been able to keep her to
I
at
think
bay, you
so.
know?
Yep. Yeah.
And that speaks volumes about about this whole other narrative going on in IndyCar at the moment in terms of the top teams seem to be getting dethroned quite badly in terms of it. It's a very bloody coup.
Yeah. And it's a lot of times when you see a mid-tier team start to gain ground, it seems like it's all at once, like in F1. You
Mm.
see a mid-tier team, all of a sudden they figure it out and they have a strong season. In IndyCar, I feel like we might be seeing a shift, and maybe I'm wrong here, but we're starting to see a shift where mid-tier teams are becoming top-tier teams. It's a
Yeah,
slow
it's
progress.
rare. It's
It's
rare
going
that
to
you
take
get to
over
see.
several seasons.
Yeah, it's rare that you because normally you would see. And again, I'm thinking like if one of the top team fall, but then not necessarily get replaced. It's
Right.
just we have one less top team now. Whereas it, on the other side of it, we'd get maybe a lower team become a midfield team or a stronger midfield team without making that transition to the top team. And the only time we've really had that big transition in F1 at least is Red Bull. I think everyone else, Mercedes, maybe you could argue that, but again, I don't think anyone ever thought they would stay as a midfield team for very long when they
Yeah.
came back in the early kind of mid 2000s. Whereas here it feels like, and again, maybe this is just me being fresher into IndyCar than obviously you are, but I keep getting told about who these top drivers are and who these top teams are. Yet in the entire course of me watching this, it's just been all of their gradual downfalls.
Yeah.
I'm going, I mean, you guys are going to be doing stuff. What is all this?
But yeah, as you mentioned, Andretti Global having probably their best race of the season as a team. Herta, Ericsson, and Kirkwood finishing fourth, fifth, and sixth. This was Pelot's second win in the last three races. So
Hmm.
uh, not
He clearly listens
sure.
to the podcast and the tough love we're giving to him.
Yeah. VK's best finish since Detroit of 2021. Yeah, been a
Been a
while.
while.
And then, of course, this is the first career podium for Kiffin Simpson, who was also the biggest mover in the race, gained the most
Hmm.
positions.
Yeah, it's, like I said, both of those drivers. Not to discount what Pato did, obviously, but it's kind of what you do expect from him. From these two, it's nice to see them both, as we were saying, finally get a bit of reward for all their efforts. And whilst top 10 finishes are nice, podiums are really nice.
Yeah.
And when it goes your way, it goes your way. And you've got to be in the right place at the right time. You've got to capitalize on strategy, and it all worked out really nicely for them. And it showed what they are capable of. As we've mentioned before, we know it's in there, but they just haven't had a race like this to capitalize on. Because I think, like you say, there is this journey to becoming a top team, but until you are firmly in that territory, it's going to be more about taking advantage of the craziness that comes your way and helping that along a bit to try and repel the motivation for the team to keep going towards it and show, look, this is what we can do. Now let's apply these strategies to the normal races so we can transfer it over to get this more regularly. And I think it's all important stepping stones towards making that happen. And obviously for Chip Ganassi with Simpson, they're already there. But for him as an individual driver, as we keep saying, he's got these two
Yeah.
titans of teammates. And for him to not only beat them, but to be on the podium when they're outside the top 10 is not too shabby.
Yeah. Well, team analysis. We always start with Team Penske. It seems like maybe we shouldn't start with Team Penske every week.
I think it's too late at this point for that to make any difference for them. That's going to be positive.
Yeah, I mean, this was just another abysmal weekend for Team Penske with the issue with Scott McLaughlin, an tire changer, Joseph Newgarden driving underneath of Jacob Abel. Power, had great qualifying and just didn't have a strong day. Um, Finished just outside the top 10 and 11th.
Yeah, it was essentially the reference I made in the notes. Obviously, I don't think you've yet seen the F1 film, but so the other reference I can make here is he was channeling his inner Kevin Magnussen or his inner Sonny Hayes in terms of I'm going to be rough and ready with everyone in this Grand Prix. And it worked almost every single time. It was just that last time where, again, coming off that back straight and going into that nice twisty section, that it backfired on a bit. And obviously, when everyone's so tightly packed together, you're going to lose way more places overall. And he was able to claw back, sure, but it was just another bit of a what if. And he had a really good opportunity there to not just get some good points on the board, but a solid result and show, look, teams screwed over the one teammate, which is Newgarden has kind of screwed himself over. Why are you looking at me be on the chopping block here out of the three of us? And then right until that point, he was doing a great audition of I can do hard and fast racing, and I know where the limits are, but he just pushed it over the limit one too many times, unfortunately, and able to recover. But he should have been in that top six, I think.
Well, he had enough contact with cars on track that if he does end up leaving Penske at some point, he could have a great second career at stock car, I feel like.
Which after this year, maybe he just should just go and do that in
Yeah.
the off season anyway. Get some
Yeah.
stress out of his system, some
Yeah.
anger out.
That's right. Maybe go
Get the three
demolition
of them to
derby.
go and do it. Actually, I think that's how do you if you're keeping all three drivers the next year, how do you get the team bonds back together? We're going to go drive into each other as stock cars. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Arrow McLaren, with the exception of awards win, it's kind of a unfortunate weekend.
Yeah, not
It
too
was,
much to say on mind here.
yeah,
With Siegel, as we said, bad luck just on his part. And Lundgaard, I don't know what's going on with him. I mean, he's won here in Toronto. His first
yeah.
win came here, and he just didn't look particularly anywhere all weekend once again. And just very, very odd, and
You you
not really
definitely
sure what
want
to do
to,
with it.
yeah, you definitely want to perform better when your boss is there watching.
I was thinking this because I think the last time he was there was in Detroit, and I don't think Lundgaard did particularly well on that occasion either.
Yeah,
If memory serves, so I'm just going, maybe Zach Brown just shouldn't be there for Lundgaard purposes.
yeah, and I mean, now in all fairness, I mean, Lundgaard did finish higher than he started.
Well, I jolly well hope so.
So, um, yeah, I mean, it was great to have Zach at the track, Zach Brown taking advantage of the off week in F1 and coming to Toronto and getting to see a team win. Got to experience that, which is nice.
Yeah, and it's a good boost tomorrow because I think it's always the last driver standing in the championship now. I mean, look at how much further back Kyle Kirkwood is in the standings, and that's not happening. I don't. I love IndyCar and I love the unpredictability of it, but even I'm not quite left field ballsy enough to be predicting he's going to come back and do this now. And I think Pato is doing what we said he should have done last
Mhm.
weekend more consistently, and
Yep.
there is just enough time for him to still manage to pull this off somehow. Because again, like I say, you only need to win by a single point. No one
Yeah.
cares how much you win by as long as you win.
You're
But at the same time, there's cutting it fine and there's cutting it fine. And yeah, one bad race for him. It's not enough for him to do well and for Pelot to not do well. He needs both to happen, I think, because if
mhm.
Pelot could just get some, he could just finish inside the top 10, quite frankly. But Award needs to at least win or come second, I think, in every single race now to have a chance of this. So I'm not
Yeah.
running away with the optimism of we might be on to something here. I'm just like it's going to get interesting, but I'm not going to get too carried away.
Yeah. And talking in the points, Pelot is 99 points ahead of Pato O'Ward at this point.
Hmm.
You got what 49-point swing that you can have in a race if you have one driver win, one driver finish last. Um, so,
It feels very much like it's
mathematically
going to be like it was last year with Will Power. It's going to
with
come to that last
willpower.
race and it's
Yeah.
going to be doable. Let's just hope a seatbelt can get involved this time.
Right. Yeah. Kyle Kirkwood and Scott Dixon are still mathematically able to win the championship, but
I
being
refer you to last week when you
173,
said we're
yeah.
going to be eliminating a lot of drivers real soon.
Yeah, yeah. Kirkwood and Dixon are 173 and 174 points back. We did
Yeah, I'm
eliminate,
not placing any bets on them.
yeah, we did eliminate Christian Lundgaard and Felix Rosenquist mathematically from the points.
I'll have
Uh,
lost my dollar bet from last week on Rosenquist. Yeah.
well, hey, you got to risk some to win some, right? The Andretti Global team that we've kind of already sung the praises of this episode, but great weekend all around for that team, um, especially for Kyle Kirkwood. Um, he was spun. Who did he get hit by? Armstrong, Marcus Armstrong,
Yeah, in the pits.
hit him in pits. You know, he had a great pit assignment. I mean, that first pit stall and just got tagged coming into the pits and coming in and got spun around. And he made a great recovery. I mean, that pretty much put him at the back of the lead lap at that point, and was able to recover for Started sixth, finished sixth. You had Colton Herta on the pole. Ended up finishing fourth. I'm sure he kind of would have wanted a better day, but hey, for Colton Herta, you have to take that.
I'm frustrated with the team as a whole because on the one hand, like you say, you look at the nature of the race that we had and their finishing positions, including Ericsson, who somehow woke up and
Yeah,
remembered he was a racing driver and finished in fifth after qualifying in a respectable eighth place. And you go, fair enough, that was good. We'll sing their praises because starting in sixth and finishing in sixth does not tell you anywhere near the entirety of that story. In the same way that you look at qualified on pole, finished fourth, you'd think, oh, that's a shame. But again, you don't have the wider context for it. But for me, we're 4 rounds away from the end of the season now, and this is Andretti Global's best race of the year, and it's a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth. And you go, that's great, but that should be, well, not
where
the
they're at.
worst kind of result that you're
Yeah,
getting this year, but it should be one of the worst results that you're getting as a
yeah,
team for the year because, as you said last weekend, Herta, he's this driver that everyone talks about in unparalleled terms, as if he's going to be one of the next superstars. Kirkwood, we thought he had a chance at the title this year,
Mhm.
and yeah, mathematically still possible, but it's not happening.
Right.
And Marcus Ericsson is also there, but again, he's a was it 2-time Indy 500 winner at least
Hmm.
once,
Yeah,
and I just feel it's too little, too late. And the fact that they had a really good weekend overall. I mean, even from qualifying and the race, just makes you go, well, you're capable then. Why the heck have you not been doing it
yeah.
for the entirety of the rest of the season? You can't
I,
suddenly just. I feel like if you weren't Andretti Global, you were A.J Foyt or Rahal and Lanigan. I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. You know,
yeah,
you're still
great finish.
figuring things out in a way. Maybe in Rahal's case, it should be you should know a bit more than you do,
You
but
should have already
the
figured. You
way
should have figured it
you
out
are,
20 years ago. Yeah.
yeah. But I forgive it a bit more. But again, it's one of these top teams. It's where I say it, Ferrari like.
Yeah.
In terms of, yeah, that's the least we expect from you. So why are you suddenly don't go and pat yourselves on the back for this now? That is the standard. So yeah, lovely, but yeah, no, they're still in my bad books for this weekend
Yeah.
because it just shows that they have been
Yeah.
capable this whole
They've
time
been
and they've just
capable
not
this
been
whole
doing
time.
it.
Well, so Marcus Ericsson, now currently 19th in the points. Um, this was only his second top 10 finish of the season.
Jesus.
Yeah. Uh, so good that he could be there with his teammates at the very least.
No. Yeah, no, gone, gone.
Yeah. Chip Ganassi. This was um, a strange weekend for the team, I feel like.
Everything got
Pelot,
flipped to how we'd
everything
normally
kind of got
expect it
flipped.
to go.
Yeah, you had Pelot and Dixon who were both running this strategy that, whenever you see Pelot and Dixon running the same strategy, you're like, okay, these are going to be the guys that finish first and second because we see it time and time again. Dixon does Scott Dixon things, and then Alex Pelot's like, oh, I'm going to do what Scott Dixon does, and then it doesn't work out.
And if you're seeing them in your mirrors, you're going, that's not a number one and number two driver working together to get me. That's two number one drivers coming to get me. And you go,
Right.
oh, that's not good. And
Yeah.
you've got to be thinking if you're the people just to head them towards the end of the race, like in your P9, P8, and P11 for Pelot's circumstance, you're going, uh-oh, uh-oh. You're
Yeah.
kind of wishing you were Kiffin Simpson. It was only Colton Herta behind you because like this is doable. I can manage this, but don't take the threat level any higher than this. I don't want to risk it right now. I was saying that's why I think they are the only top team in IndyCar at the moment because even when they're doing badly, it was still quite decent damage limitation, and this
Mm.
is more the exception than the rule, which is the very flip for me for Andretti. It's that their result this weekend was an anomaly because it was that good when it should always be at least that good. Whereas this was an anomaly for Chip Ganassi because they're never usually this bad. And if that's them having a bad race, it's still not too bad, especially when one of their drivers who qualifies the worst out of the three of them ends up on the podium.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned, this is the only top team in IndyCar right now, is what it feels like. And to put it in perspective, you have Kiffin Simpson, who had a great weekend, finished third after starting 14th. Um, he is what 13 points behind Penske's top driver with Scott McLaughlin right now.
Ace resting,
Or no, I'm sorry. Will Power is ahead of Scott McLaughlin, but
but still,
still, he's almost he's 13 points ahead of Joseph Newgarden, who
you're a two-time Indy 500 winner.
correct, yeah. So for him to have the season that he's having, we kind of this was kind of a question mark at the beginning of the season for us. We're like Kiffin Simpson, when you had to strip from 5 to 3 drivers and Kiffin Simpson's one of them that you kept, it's like, okay. Um,
And mostly every single time we've kind of been saying that he then gives us a performance that goes, okay, no, we're starting to see more and more of that potential as to why he's actually there.
yeah. And
And also
you look at
now Kiffin Simpson has 50% the same number of podiums this year as Joseph Newgarden does.
yeah, well, yeah,
If
because
he gets one more somehow, he's equal for this year.
yeah, yep, you have well, I'm just rolling through the stats here. Yeah, I mean, they have the same number of top fives, they have the same number of top tens. Um, yeah, and Joseph Newgarden's led 331 laps to Kiffin Simpson's 6 laps.
And yet somehow those six
And
laps have been more
somehow
important.
he's still 13 points ahead of him.
Uh, I'm looking ahead at the other teams on our list here in the next few. There is really not too much to say on some of these. We always have a lot to say, I feel like, about A.J Foyt, about Meyer, Shank, and
Mhm.
the other two, very much depending on the race, but they all had,
Kind of ups and downs. Yeah,
yeah,
and
kind of just very mid weekends. I think the only shining light for all four teams here is, weirdly enough, Graham Rahal and David Malukas.
yeah, yeah. A.J Foyt mentioned, Santino Ferrugi was unable to compete this weekend, but David Malukas started 16th, finished ninth, and I don't think that ninth place finish even represents the kind of drive that he had because he was one of those drivers that was on that kind of third weird strategy where he had to pit with 15 to go and kind of had a
It
bum
wasn't
pit
even a
stop and
hero or
had
zero strategy. It's kind of you're
yeah,
not going to if it works, you look great. If it doesn't work, you're going to look terrible.
yeah,
It kind of worked.
yeah.
He just kind
That
of
that
ran out of laps. And again, it feels a bit like if you had those last few laps, would he have been able
mm,
to make up any more positions? And if so, how many?
yeah, yeah, because it was what that last we talked about the last 10 laps of the race up until that final caution that mid pack that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 place um, that pack was some of the best racing that we had seen all season.
The amount of
And
umming and ahhing and oohing and ooh
yeah, and,
kind
and
of
he had
noises
to
coming
he
out of
had to
everyone.
work his way. Yeah, Malukas had to work his way through all of that, and he did the best job of it. Finishing ninth, I don't think accurately represents where he could have finished if he could have had a good pit stop and come out in front of that pack. But
I think the
um,
silver line for him is that this is two races now where he's suffered from this kind of an issue, which makes me think third time's the charm, and hopefully we get that in one of the
that's
last
right.
four races.
Yeah. Yeah, Juncos Hollinger, again, not much to say here.
They
Um,
participated. We can
yeah,
move on.
both, we got to see both names near the top of the scoring pylon at different points in the race, and strategy just didn't go their way. Meyer Shank Racing, Marcus Armstrong finishing 14th, Rosenquist, unfortunate incident there at the end, finishes 19th. Um, we kind of had been singing the praises of this team quite a bit here
Yeah,
lately.
just a week
And
ago,
this was uncharacteristic, I would say, for the team.
very much
I
so.
mean,
I mean, the one thing I've noticed in particular that I can legitimately criticize them for is Rosenquist's qualifying. He doesn't seem to be very good at that this season.
yeah,
He's always if I always look at the results of started and finished, and I'm like, oh, it's oh man, it was a quest. You're finishing well, but your qualifying is awful.
Yeah.
Whereas at
If we
least
could
this
just,
time around, it didn't hurt him too much because, well, he had bigger fish to fry.
yeah. And I had a note here with in regards to Rosenquist. IndyCar needs to take a look at their rule book in the off
Hmm.
season. I feel like we're having more and more cars stay out with damaged wings, you know,
You could hear
and
Gunter
then
Steiner from Kota a couple of years ago shouting at the Alpine three.
yeah, you have parts coming off. Those wings are not made to take the kind of punishment that these drivers are trying to put on them. It's not a chrome horn as we have in
Hmm.
NASCAR. You know, um, it's you have the winglets on the ends that can fly off. Those are certainly small enough to where they're going to fit through a an opening in a car. And we have the aero screen, which will prevent items from flying in through the front. But um, you know, plus all that stuff is made of carbon fiber, and it doesn't take a whole lot of carbon fiber to ruin somebody's race with a punctured tire. And I think IndyCar needs to take a look at this and say, hey, how much damage is too much damage? If the wing is flopping around and dragging on the track, should we, blue flag them and have them come in to
Hmm.
change this wing, assess damage? Something needs to happen there. I don't think that it had a whole lot of
Well,
bearing
you
on the
think
finish of
if
the
that
race,
came up
but
on a different part of the track, that could have been a much worse kind of knock-on effect for
exactly.
cars going
Yeah.
along behind it.
Yeah. It definitely happened in the slowest part of the track, which is great. But
Still
it
shouldn't
could
have
have
happened in
happened
the
on
first
the
place.
something could have happened on the highest speed part of the track, and we would have had a real big problem.
Almost
So,
impressive it didn't, considering the bumps around the entire circuit and
right.
how lamentous it was for other cars. I mean, we'll talk about Rahal and Lanigan now, and you saw the curious nature. I don't know if you saw this or if you saw my note and had to go googling and what on earth is he talking about. Um, but in practice, you saw the weird impact that a simple pool noodle can have on an Indy car, and you go, well,
I
if that's something that I'm getting called in for, surely a damaged front wing is
I
something I
I
should be
I,
getting called in for.
I saw your note, but I was going to ask you what that was. I had no reference there.
During first practice, Devin DiGrasso driving along, minding his own business, and the source has not yet been determined, but a pool noodle, the kind that you would have at a swimming pool,
Sure.
just in case you were in doubt that that is what I was referring to, found its way onto the back straight and slowly moved its way along onto the racing line. And then I think Newgarden zoomed past it, caused a bit of a backdraft. It flew into the air and just bonk, hugged itself onto DiFrancesco's wing mirror
Oh my.
and kind of split completely open, but was kind of lodged in there. And they went down to the pits when they were getting off, and Georgia picked it up and went, "No, it genuinely is a pool noodle. I've got it here. Like, I have no idea where this came from, how this happened. Just when you look and you think, of course that happened to DiFrancesco. Of course it did.
Yeah, of
Who
course.
else would
Yeah.
that happen to?
Yeah. Unfortunately for DeFrancesco, not the day that he was
His
kind
weekend
of
didn't get
for.
any better.
No, no, he had some mechanical issues that uh, kind of kept him reserved to several laps down, and then big chunks of laps down, and then finally, ultimately, at the end, just bring the car into retiring. Foster, unfortunate weekend for him as well. Finishing
Qualifying well.
20, yeah, qualifying though was great. He finished 21st, but qualified just outside the Fast Six and seventh. So, but then Graham Rahal, we finally had a great day for him. Got his
Which we
second
like. I
top 10
mean,
of the
great,
season.
great weekend, really. I mean, qualified well, finished
Yeah,
well. It's
yeah,
it's nice when it happens. But again, we're not used to it.
yeah. Ed Carpenter Racing, ECR, disappointing weekend all around, I
Yeah,
feel like, for
bad
them.
luck all round. I feel like
Yeah.
there it didn't happen. I mean, Rossi's been having a bit of a tough time with it anyway, and
Mm.
Rasmussen's been showing up. But this time, like you say, it's 99 times out of 100. It's fine doing that if you're Rossi, and then you find the 100th time and you're like, of course, it had to be
Yeah.
me. And then
Yeah.
Rasmussen, yeah, kept going,
Unfortunately,
but he was ultimately
yeah.
done.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Rossi's kind of fallen off. here in the second half of the season. I feel like we're singing his praises early on. Had a couple strung together several good finishes, and we're just not seeing it in the second half. But
Again,
I'm,
feels a little bit like Carlos Sainz maybe or Alex Albon in Williams. It's kind of we know the driver you're capable of being. It's just maybe the car and the circumstances aren't doing
yeah,
you any favors at the moment, unfortunately, to give us that. And we know at some point it will turn around. It just it appears you're stuck in a bit of a rut at the moment.
yeah. Dayle Coyne Racing, obviously, Reese VK. Uh,
I'm
Great day
Butler.
for him. Yeah, we love it for him. He's showing us again why he deserves to be in this series. And I know I kind of get the impression that you want him to stay with this team and help grow this
Just
team.
because I'd like the story of how that would continue. I'm an
I,
old romantic for that
I,
sort of
I,
thing.
I'm ready for him. I'm ready for these teams, these bigger teams, to be like, hey, listen, this guy obviously knows how to drive. We need to pick him up and
Yeah,
move
but look
him.
at how those teams are doing at the moment. It's not just the
It's
drivers that are the issues with those teams. So I'd
that's
want
true.
them to
Yeah,
stay there and just build it out that way.
yeah,
Say what you want about Ferrugi off track. I like that he wants to stick with his team with A.J Foyt and yet build them back to winning ways. And like that
yeah,
is the mentality I like for these things. It's not of I'm going to use you until I can get somewhere better. It's kind of we can all do this together and like that.
yeah, yeah,
That's what I'm after here.
yeah. And then Jacob Abel, unfortunately got lifted
Yep.
by Newgarden and
Yeah.
finished the day 23rd. So PREMA Racing, not a whole lot to say there,
Positives
other
being
than
two back-to-back weekends though, with best results
yeah,
for each driver. So
yeah,
it's nice to have something positive to say, and it's not just kind of Prema being Prema. It's kind of okay, yeah, one driver didn't do well last weekend, and the same happened here.
mm,
But I think again, both finish. And I was just trying to think
yeah,
if that happened last weekend or not because we had the double header on. I'm pretty sure I didn't finish in one of the races, but I can't remember which one
yeah,
now. Um, But again, Schwartzman, okay, yeah, only moved up 4 spots, but that's better than some of the stuff we're used to happening for him because he was also someone who was ruled some kind of mystical being and gotten cursed over the course of the season. And so I got solid qualifying, moved up also
mm,
4 spots, got inside the top 10.
mm.
First
It's his
time, I think, this season.
first top 10. Yeah, first top 10 of the season. Yeah,
But it's we our debate about who's going to be staying at that team and who's leaving intensifies now a bit more because they're both kind of waking up going, oh, we might be in danger. We should probably do something about that.
yeah. It's Ralph Wiggum sitting in the back of the bus.
Mm.
I'm in danger.
There's there are so many Ralph Wiggums this season.
Yes, there are. So hot, not, and hard luck. Uh,
You couldn't choose.
I couldn't choose for hot. I couldn't choose. Um, I just if I had to pinpoint one,
Go ahead, Rahal. Come on,
yeah.
just say it.
um, you know, this goes against who I see you pick further down the list, but I almost have to go with Andretti Global.
I was
Yeah,
almost thinking you were going to say Carpenter. Like he's not going to go that left field, surely. He's going to, okay,
no,
the team as a whole. That makes more
yeah,
sense.
yeah. I kind of have to go with the team as a whole. I mean, Marcus Ericsson finally doing what the rest of the team is doing. He's finally on board with the package, and uh,
Got
you
the
know,
memo, guys. It finally
it
arrived.
finally arrived. So yeah, I mean, but also, I mean, I talked about um, you know, it, your pick. I won't spoil it. I'll let you go ahead and give it. But I think that would have been also a very good candidate. Um, but also, um,
I
yeah, I
respect
mean, you
you
have
saying
Kevin
Andretti
Simpson
Global in
as
the same
well.
way that
So
we chose Team Penske in the first race in Iowa was kind of, you know what, when it goes right, we'll give you a bit of credit because you didn't muck it up this time and you managed
that's
to take
right.
advantage of it. It's just a shame that it took this long to happen, but
Yeah,
we'll still applaud it.
yeah.
Um,
But
yeah,
you're hot.
I was torn as well because there were so many options. But I just thought because of the narrative I want to play out there, it's got to be BK and then Dale Coyne there because
Yeah,
that was a perfect example of right. take the chance, take the next chance, keep taking them until either we run out of chances or we've gotten to the end goal that we wanted here. And second place ain't too bad for a team that has no right normally being there. Let's face it.
Yeah. Yeah. Really. I mean, realistically, yeah, definitely punching above their weight class for sure. Um, who's your not hot?
Uh, Ironically, here, amusingly, Andretti Global, because
Andretti Global.
I stand with what I said earlier in terms of, yeah, it's great for this weekend, but a little bit like Team Penske. This should be what you're doing most weekends. This is not meant to be the result we applaud you for. This is
Yeah.
they just missed out again instead of
Yeah.
oh my god, you finished in the top 10, all of you. Yeah, it's what we pay you for. Come on, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I had Ed Carpenter Racing pegged as my not hot, but after kind of going back over everything, I could also maybe put Meyer Shank in there as well. You know, they,
Yeah, yeah.
um, you know,
So I think
poor
even if
performances
IndyCar
from all
didn't call
four
that
drivers.
car in, maybe they should have called the car in to
Yeah,
deal with it. You know,
yeah.
um, it's just because just giving his slightly, I put ECR down as my hard luck award because I just felt there wasn't an awful lot that either driver could have done about their situations.
Mhm.
Whereas for the Meyer Shank, if you'd chosen them for not hard, it's kind of yeah, they didn't have to. But I wonder what would have happened if you called them in during the caution. You're already going to be saving a
Mhm.
bit of time on a pit stop anyway, because it's not
Yeah.
caution. So why not just try and take advantage of that and see what you can do? You're already going to be struggling as it is. Let's face it, you're not aerodynamically perfect with that front wing running as it is. So they didn't help themselves.
Mhm. Yeah. My hard luck award goes to Nolan Siegel. I mean,
Fair enough.
had had a decent race going. He was on the lead lap and just got caught up in a little struggle at the end.
Shenanigans.
So
Hmm.
shenanigans with Rosenquist. So, but yeah, I think that all in all, this was a great weekend. I know that not every race can be a banger or a winner or an instant classic, but uh, this is the kind of race that I wish we could have had more of this season.
It does make me wish that we didn't just leave America once a season as well.
Mhm.
I like the idea of you go to Canada twice, maybe you go to Mexico twice,
Mhm.
in a season.
Yeah.
And I don't particularly like the Mexico City Grand Prix circuit because for a good while I've just not seen any good racing in any category
Mhm.
around there. And so I'd be intrigued to see what IndyCar could do there because I feel like if IndyCar can make it good racing for me, then
Mhm.
yeah, maybe we
Yeah.
have to do something else. But they've talked about it before with NASCAR. They've been there this year. That was not a good race around the
No.
stadium.
No.
It was amusing to watch, but pitifully slow in terms of visuals. And I just wonder it'd be interesting to get a race or two in Mexico, a race or two in Canada, and give it a bit more of
Mhm.
that North American feel. And I'm not saying you then have to keep going south into more of Central America and South America, but because it's still a principally American series. But again, I think if you're expanding your audiences, and if you've got Paso Award there, and if you've kind of wanted to expand a bit more of Canadian motorsport, as that seems to be slowly growing, that would be a great way to get a bit more into it. Even if it's another street circuit, you've got a good few tracks in on that side of Canada, and then if you want a um, city street circuit,
Mhm.
if you're in Oregon with the Portland Grand Prix, Vancouver's not a million miles away. You could go and do
Mhm.
a neat, nice street circuit around there somewhere
Yeah.
and figure it out that way. It's. I think that maybe that's a wish list for another time, but it just made me think of you see how good this is, and I don't mind actually for once expanding a calendar.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, IndyCar's, I mean, 17 race season, it's already the shortest as far as number of races on the calendar, but also it's so compact. I
Hmm.
mean, we've got back to back to back to back races all through July, and then
You
we
could easily
finish
reorganize that a bit and spread it out a
stretch
little
it
more.
out
You
a
could
little bit.
you
Yeah.
could even have it in the same time frame. I mean, you look at the gaps we have at the start of the season.
Yeah,
And you think
those,
if you
yeah,
just packaged it, if you did say you started in St. Pete and you then did something in Texas, let's say they do Arlington straight away next, then you go south of the border for 2 rounds and do back to back, and then you have a little break after
yeah.
Mexico and you go wherever you want. And then if you're doing two in Canada, make sure that they're kind of close together, maybe, or if it's like the Portland and Vancouver example I gave, you stick them together, but then you can have a little break. And I think it, as fun as this month has been with back to back to back to back to back,
Yeah,
you don't need to.
right.
You can breathe for a minute
Yeah.
and give us that.
Well,
It'd be
we're
nice
not
to
gonna
have a
get
weekend.
yeah, we're not gonna get a chance to take a breath this week because we do have another race. We're
Which,
going to Laguna.
considering it's Laguna Seca, I can't
Yeah,
complain.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've finished the month of July strong with the Java House Grand Prix of Monterey this coming weekend at Laguna Seca. Obviously, Laguna Seca, almost like a legacy track um,
It should
that
always be up there, I think.
we all love anyway. I mean, what's not to love about the corkscrew there? You know.
Yeah, no. I mean, that alone is worth the price of admission, as they say.
Yeah. So, but we'll be back next week with another podcast for On the Curbs IndyCar edition. Thiemo, thanks a lot for coming in, and we'll see everybody next week.